Our helmet protects one of the most important organs in our body, our brain. I think it's important that helmets are properly inspected and cleaned. While these are seemingly basic skills, many important steps can easily be overlooked. To get started, let's talk about some components of our helmet. On the exterior right here, we have our hard exterior shell. It's just a composite material. We have our face shield. We have our chin strap. We have our ratchet strap adjustment. And then we have our front headband right here. And then considered soft goods are neck flap or ear protector, and then the material that goes around this back ratchet adjustment, and then the piece that goes around the front right here are mainly for comfort. Inside the helmet we have our 6-point suspension system, and then around the whole perimeter of our helmets, all the way around the back, we have an impact cap. If you can ever see down in between there, between your helmet and this section, there's a piece of foam that's maybe a little less than a 1/2 inch thick. It provides not only impact protection, but it also provides heat resistance of our structural helmets. If we take a hard blow to the exterior of this helmet, this hard shell will help dissipate the impact, but also it'll get down to that foam and dissipate through the foam. Historically, it has somewhat been a badge of honor to have a dirty helmet. To be more cancer aware, we need to keep our helmets clean. As the helmets have been exposed to products of combustion, it collects soot both inside and out. The soot can contain carcinogens. Anytime we touch a dirty helmet, we're exposing ourselves to these possible cancer-causing agents. In a heated environment, the pores of our skin open up and become more vascular. If our headband is contaminated with soot, this leads to the possibility of carcinogens more easily entering our body. We should be cleaning our helmet regularly, especially anytime they're exposed to the products of combustion. You should always do this as per the manufacturer's recommendations and NFPA 1851. To perform a cleaning on your helmet, we want to remove as many components as we can. I've already removed the face shield. You'll probably need a small tool. It has some small cotter pins in there that you got to remove to get the shield off. And then we can start with the shield. We have here just some water, and you want to use a mild detergent. Just a little bit of soap will do. We could dip it down in there and either use a soft bristle brush or a rag or a sponge, but we could just simply clean it like we would anything else. Once we get it good and clean, we're going to want to rinse it with just regular water to get all that soap residue off, and then we're going to also want to do the same thing with the exterior of our helmet. We'd use the same sponge. We'd clean the outside real good. We'd rinse it off, and then we would dry it. Next, we want to remove the soft goods out of the helmet. All this is held on by Velcro, so to remove the ear and neck protector, it simply comes out via Velcro. This back ratchet strap cover is just held on by Velcro. We can remove that. And then the front strap comfort band is also held on by Velcro. We can undo that and pull that out. Once we get that out, we would clean these in the same solution of just a mild detergent. We could dip them down in here, clean them thoroughly. Once we cleaned all components thoroughly, we would rinse thoroughly with just normal water, and then we're going to lay it out at room temperature to dry. The chin strap on these Bullard helmets is not removable, so we don't have a way to actually remove it and clean it. We could either dip it in that same solution like we did our soft goods, or we could use a rag or a sponge and wipe that down the best we can. We want to remember to rinse it with water afterwards to get any residue of soap suds out. And then the inside of the helmet we want to wipe down with either a sponge, a bristle, or I chose a moist rag right here. But the point is to wipe down every square inch of this helmet. We want to get down in the very top of this helmet, wipe it all down, and then our suspension system, our webbing suspension system, we want to wipe all that down. If we get soap residue in there, we want to make sure and get rid of that soap residue. We don't want to leave that on our helmet, so we would rinse it the best we could in there, and then flush that soap residue out. One thing we don't want to do is get water in between our hard shell and our impact cap right here, so be careful not to get water or soap down in between there. As I mentioned earlier, once you get your soft goods washed and rinsed, you want to lay them out at room temperature to dry. You don't want to put wet soft goods back in your helmet. Not only would the wetness be uncomfortable, it could also lead to steam burns if you've got to go in a fire. So I recommend you do this maybe at the end of the shift where you got the full 2 days for them to dry, or before you're heading off for a vacation shift. Now to talk about inspecting your helmet. To inspect your helmet, you first want to start with a clean helmet. I've already cleaned this one in the previous demonstration. It was new to start with, but when NFPA designs the specifications for this helmet via NFPA 1971, they specified many tests that shall be performed. Some of the major ones are it should provide electrical insulation, and when we're wearing it in a structure fire, if a live wire comes across this helmet, it's not going to shock us. It provides heat insulation. That's what the outer shell and the foam on the inside helps with that I talked about earlier. And then it also, of course, provides impact protection in case something strikes us on the head when we're wearing that helmet. There's other tests in there too. Those are kind of the three most important ones. But as far as us inspecting helmets, if these helmets aren't up to par over the years of abuse we subject them to, some of those properties can start to diminish or completely go away. And so we're going to want to inspect the helmet for those. We really want to inspect every single component of this helmet. This is something you could do routinely, or especially when you do your advanced inspection on your bunker gear. But to start your inspection, you just want to look over the helmet. We're going to look over the outer shell for any kind of cracks, bubbling, chips. We want to look over our face shield for any kind of cracks, especially in this area where it pivots. We want to check out our knobs, make sure they're functioning. Just looking for any kind of blemishes. To inspect our face shield, we want to look for any kind of damage, any kind of cracks, distortion, warping. We also want to check for any kind of damage around here where it pivots. We want to check these adjustment knobs out to make sure they're functioning. On the exterior of this helmet, we talked about looking for damage there, but some of the issues with damage to that exterior are if there's a crack in there, that could lead to leaking water and also could allow electrical current to come through that. NFPA 1971 states that these helmets have to be replaced every 10 years. I've always wondered why that was the case. I think there's two reasons behind that. One is every few years NFPA changes their standards. If they didn't phase these out, put a 10-year shelf life on them, firefighters could be wearing really old technology-based helmets, and so they don't want that. The other reason, in pertaining to inspecting, is especially on the inside of the helmet, some of these components can degrade over time. This is just material that can degrade, and so it's especially important that we inspect those components. But when we're talking about inspecting the inside of this helmet, we want to inspect every piece of it just like we did the outside. We want to inspect every square inch of it. We probably want to take these soft goods back out and inspect every square inch of our strap if there's any kind of cracks or damage to this headband strap all the way around. We want to check our neck flap out, make sure there's no heat damage to it. We want to check all the threads, make sure the threads aren't unraveling anywhere. Check our soft goods out, make sure they're in good shape. These soft goods are replaceable. There's replacements for those. Check the chin strap out, make sure its buckle system works and its tightening system works. Make sure it's not going to inadvertently release. You could apply some tension to it. Make sure it's all secure. We want to really check out our suspension system right here, this strap webbing suspension system. We want to get up in here and really look where it attaches to the helmet. See if there's any kind of damage or separation right there. Check for the thread integrity there. We could also pull on each one of those straps and make sure they're secure. Maybe get a light out and shine up in your helmet and look at the inside of your helmet and make sure there's no damage up inside there. You also want to test the ratchet system out to make sure it's still holding. These gears in here can wear out, and over time, if a little bit of pressure is applied, it'll freely spin out and loosen. This ratchet needs to stay tight, so you can apply just a little bit of side pressure or a little bit of back pressure on that ratchet system to make sure it's holding tight. The last thing I can think of to talk about is if you do find damage, what do you do about it? And that's a good question because there's no hard and fast rule. If it's something significant like a crack in your shell, that helmet would need to be taken out of service. If your chin strap is broken, obviously it need to be taken out of service. If any other critical component's broken, you need to take that out of service and get a replacement. But I say any kind of helmet damage, pass that up through your chain of command and let them determine what happens with it. As far as fall damage on this helmet, if this helmet ever takes a significant blow, whether you're wearing it and something hits the top of it, or the helmet was dropped from a significant height, or you fell with the helmet and it struck the ground, this helmet would need to be taken out of service.